What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here is a clip from our song, Time.
Time, you left your scars. Hope was there. I gave her my heart. Hope, take me in your arms. I see the path, but it seems so far.
If you like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast.
The Live and Create podcast.
Now, what's the music scene like in New Zealand? Like, and where are you at? Like, what's the city that you're in?
So I'm in Wellington, the capital.
Okay.
The biggest city is Auckland. So when bands, if they make it to New Zealand, usually they'll at least play Auckland,
Right.
and then Wellington's lucky if we get international bands. But it's gotten a lot better in recent years. It used to be pretty dry in terms of international touring here.
Like more people saying like, yeah, let's go make the time. Let's be over there.
Mm.
That's cool. Do you guys have like a local scene there where you're at?
Yeah. There's a local scene too. I don't go out very often, so
Keep it tight, working.
yeah, I'm a bit of a homebody and just kind of sometimes just forget to check what's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think there's still a reasonably healthy scene.
That's cool. How big of a city is Wellington? Forgive my like American ignorance right now. I'm displaying it, putting it on full display, but I'm just curious how big of a city it is.
Yes, population-wise, I think the entire, I guess, metropolitan area is about maybe 400,000 people. So it's not that big.
And so like as far as so you're not really going out playing. Like for you, the focus is more studio work and where like creating and crafting is your passion.
Yeah. It's kind of a bit of a windy journey to like settle on sync licensing as the area of music I wanted to target, because at first I wanted to play in a band because that's the only music job that I really kind of thought of. And I knew, you have to go touring all the time and try and sell lots of merch and stuff. I thought, well,
hustling t-shirts and hoodies and
yeah, so that's just how you have to do it. But then eventually, I started to see some people in bands that I listened to recording the band, their own band. So that'll be cool. I could be the recording guy in my band, and then I realized, I could actually do studio work, and then I don't have to go on tour all the time. I can just stay in one place, and even though it might not be work on my own music as much, I can still at least be part of the creative process. And it's where I did my undergrad degree, and then initially I wanted to do like a tracking engineer and run a studio with all the mics and all that, and then I recorded a song with the band. We were both woefully unprepared. I
I smile and laugh so big because I know that the first time we had to get in the studio with my very first band, where I literally thought the click track was broken. I was like, something's wrong with your metronome because it keeps fucking up. And it was, we all know now that it was us that we were not ready. So you guys got in there, you're like, oh man, like, did you notice it off the bat, or was it like when the song came, when you got finished, you were like, oh God, this is rough?
Yeah, well, on my end, it was, we were going to record drums as part of it. And on the morning they were coming over, I realized, although I've got enough mics, I've got four mic cables and 2 mic stands. So I have to make do with just that.
Right on.
So thankfully I used the mic stands for the overheads, and then had the kick mic was one of those ones you can just like put on the floor. So I just put that in the kick, and then I had a clip-on mic I could use for the snare.
Nice. At least you had that, right? Some people won't even have that.
Yeah.
Get started.
And then I also, over the course of recording, the drums wasn't done all in one block. It was kind of most of it beginning, then the rest at the end. And they had to like reuse some of the cables for like the other instruments. When we went to go back to the drums, I forgot to put the phantom power back on for that overhead. So I only ended up with one that had to have a mono overhead at the end.
Gotcha.
And the band was used to rehearsing together without a click, so they have some like push and pull in the tempo. So when they played it together, they sounded, pretty decent. Because I didn't have the facilities to do it all live. I had to do it one at a time, but then they kind of started messing up that because they didn't have the other people to play off of.
Right.
I managed to kind of hack something together, but yeah, that was...
So you did get a finished product out of that, though?
It wasn't very good, but we got a product.
There was a thing we could put out into the world.
Yeah.
Well, and it is such a different experience, I think when bands go from, like you said, playing live, used to rehearsing together, doing all that, and then now you got, but a lot of bands don't even play on a click when they're first starting, is what I, that's the route we took. That's even a foreign concept to a lot of bands just getting started. Yeah, to put everybody on the grid, to be able to emote still, and you're just, and under the microscope, that's a whole different ball game, man. That's for sure. But for you, after that, so you had this product that you, as you said, that's good. Did it still spark something in you though, like the process of it?
I think that experience and also when they'd through the recording, they'd have some disagreements on where the song should go and how they should do certain bits. And I think that was what kind of pushed me to the next stage of what I want to do in music, because I don't have the temperament to kind of step in and mediate things. Because I'm quite a kind of reserved, shy person, so I can't say, oh, guys, get it together. Like, we can try these both ways and compare it and see how it goes, or no, don't do this, try this, or whatever.
So yeah, the producer role, you're not wanting to do the mediation that's necessary in that sense. Is that kind of what
it's not something that comes naturally to me. So that kind of moved me along, and I thought, oh, maybe mixing instead, because maybe there'll still be a little bit, but hopefully less so, and hopefully don't have to at least deal with people directly as I'm doing the job.
Right. Yeah, because that producer role really takes the producer. One producer we worked with a lot. We are now switching to self-production, everything in-house. But one of the guys we worked with, like, there's so many times he had to like bring us in a room and sit us down. Okay. Like one time I distinctly remember him yelling to everybody because we were arguing back and forth. He just yelled from the control room, "Shut the fuck up. Everybody sit down and shut up." And it's like, he needed that, in that. And yeah, it is that particular role is a different thing. But then when you look at the mixing side, when you look at all the details, I could see why that would draw you there, because now you're talking about the distinct little pieces. But for you, that, were you doing that for some time and then you decided to go to sync licensing, or you just kind of dabble there too and then find this whole other world of sync licensing?
Yeah, for a little bit, it was kind of mixing on a mostly kind of casual amateur basis. And then I stumbled across sync a couple of years ago, scrolling through Instagram. Then I got suggested a reel from, I don't know if you know Sides. She's a content, CIDS. So
I'm going to look up as we're talking just so I don't forget.
Yeah, so she's a content creator, kind of like Jay Whirl, and she was doing a lot of Logic tips and tricks.
Yeah, I actually do follow her. I do know her because it was the Logic stuff that she was talking about. Is now seeing her page, I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then she was doing some like joint kind of online course, like a short course about sync in collaboration with Jay Whirl. And that's where I kind of came across sync licensing and like Jay Whirl stuff. And then so I followed him and would occasionally watch his reels on sync licensing, and I kind of thought, oh, that looks interesting, because I'd been kind of considering how maybe I should try composing or like film and stuff. Then it was only kind of maybe mid 2024 when I thought, actually I should probably actually take it seriously. That's when I joined the Sync Alliance, and yeah, I think I've kind of at least now settled on an area of music that's suited for me, because when you're dealing with recording bands and stuff, it's a lot more informal in how things are run, and with sync it's a lot of like legal documents and frameworks and a lot of contracts, so everything's all formalized, and if there's any disagreements on how a thing needs to be conducted, there's a lot more in the way of things you can go back to say, oh, this is how we should be doing it.
Right. Yeah, a much clearer path. And so when it comes to composition, what drew you to like the composer side of sync? What was it about that genre? I noticed like you kind of dabble metal as well, like the orchestration type stuff. What drew you to that?
Growing up, I really enjoyed the soundtracks of the films I watched. When I was quite young, my mum showed me like the Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars films, and those have some pretty iconic soundtracks, and we both like really got into the scores for those, and like Pirates of the Caribbean when that came out as well. So that's something that I've pretty much always been really interested in. So yeah, that's where the orchestration thing came from.
That's awesome. Is there for you then? So you jumped into the Sync Alliance you said mid 2024.
Yes.
And then from what I can tell, like looking at the leaderboard, you pretty much took over which is pretty awesome. I loved when you were like, hey, I'm in school, so someone else can have a chance at the top. But for the listener, where there's like this leaderboard for like interactions in the Sync Alliance community, and you're at the top like almost all the time and hustling.
Yeah.
When you jumped in, did you do like the Catalyst program and kind of studying all those pieces, or did you kind of come in and start exploring which direction you wanted to go? What did that look like when you first stepped into, I guess, the sync stream, if you will?
Yeah, I just kind of joined and then just kind of started absorbing the general atmosphere. I think the kind of the rate of interaction that I've had recently was because for those guest session replays, you have to be level 4, so accruing a certain number of points to be able to view the replays. And at the time, I didn't realize it only gave you access to the replays and not the live sessions, which is only for the Catalyst members. There was a session with Tommy Profit coming up, and I thought,
I'm not familiar with Tommy.
He's this kind of composer and producer that's quite well known for like big cinematic arrangements and cinematic percussion.
So you saw that, and you're like, I got to be there.
Yeah, so I was like
for this
scrambling
thing.
to get to enough points by the time the session came around.
That's awesome.
And then I tried to get in, and it was oh no, it's catalyst to get to the live session.
Sucks. After all that work.
Yeah, but then I just kept interacting, and I enjoy the competition of trying to stay at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, it is kind of fun. It's fun, like watching that. And I think the leaderboard's been interesting too, because it's definitely, it's even switching some of the choices I make with my band when it comes to social media, where, because I find myself in the Sync Alliance asking, like, how can I post something that's actually valuable to other people, instead of just being like, pandering, trying to get likes, but like, how do I actually do something that, like, put something out there that is helpful and does provide value, or is just authentic? Because a lot of my stuff right now is just like, how the hell do you do this thing? Does anyone know how to, like right now I'm trying to edit drums. So like, does anyone know how to edit drums? That kind of thing. And that's been helpful too. But it's made me think more and more about our own social media, of posting instead of just posting because I'm like, I got to post today because today is my post for the band. It's like, oh no, how can I really bring value to the fan, in this context? So it's been a fun endeavor. So did you get to go into that meeting though?
No.
So you literally were locked out, and you're like, I just can't.
Yeah, because I only got up to enough points like almost right before the session, and then I was trying to click on the link and wasn't getting in. So I messaged Josh, and then he said that's when he told me, I need to join the Catalyst program. And so now I've since joined.
Right, you're like, hey, you need to bring him back, man. Bring him back so I can jump in there. So right now then, it sounds like for you, the sweet spot is being in your studio, nobody around, diving in to creative work, right? Well, that's what I'm guessing. But what does that process look like for you right now, the creative process? Like if you're like, say, I'm going to make a brief, do you already have a publisher that you're working with?
No, so I'm still pretty early on in my sync journey. So I'm, done the basics of signing up with a PRO and all that stuff, but I don't have any libraries or agents that I'm signed with. So I'm still kind of getting together an EP of either orchestral stuff or working on some metal songs with one of the other Alliance members.
Right on. Yeah, and that's why I was wondering like where you were. So then now as you're building the EP, like say you're getting ready to start, the next song for the EP, what does that process look like for you as you're jumping into the creative of it?
Creating those songs in general, I kind of go by, I just kind of get some sort of sonic vibe in my head, and I try and kind of put bits of it down and onto the computer to just get the section that I'm thinking of, and then try and flesh it out and structure it. So it's
So for you, are you hearing like certain parts, certain hooks in your head? Are you hearing like timbres? What is that? I guess I'm just curious, like, what is it in your head that's kind of milling about in there? Because I remember we had toured the school at Berkeley one time, just visiting Boston. I know they would never accept me. That was not like on the table for me, but we were touring it, and they showed us the room where the people who were working on the scores, and they would just sit with like the big sheet of paper, and it's like they're hearing all the parts kind of piecing together. And so it was curious to see that, because I don't think that way musically. But yeah, I'm curious for you living in that orchestral space, what does that look like inside your head as you're creating?
Yeah, I guess it's usually like a certain timbre and or like some kind of chords. And then I try and get a melody out of that to add on top, and some rhythms if it calls for any sort of percussion or whatever. And I just try and then if I can get that down, try and use that to inform what comes next by what feels like it would flow on from that or flow into that section if it's not like an intro that I'm thinking of at the beginning.
Like how it's going to flow throughout. Now, one thing I've noticed, it seems like when they're talking about, maybe it's just trailers, maybe it's with the orchestral as well. Are you thinking in acts? Are you thinking in movements? where like I'm thinking verse, chorus, pre-chorus kind of thing. But what does that look like for you doing the orchestral stuff?
I think for me, I've kind of been thinking in kind of verse and chorus as well.
Oh, okay.
Because in terms of like structures and sections within a song, that's kind of the main terminology I'm used to. Whereas with movements, for me, I've mostly thought of them as their own pieces. Like with some classical music with like a sonata or whatever, there's like a composition, and then you have the movements within that. But generally, if those movements will be played either together, if it's the whole thing, or separately. So yes, I've always thought about those as separate things, but yeah, like I just sort of thought, verse, chorus.
Right on.
And because I've, at the moment, kind of mostly thinking about, I guess, haven't really been thinking so much about trailer music in terms of like what I'm targeting in sync. I mean, I have started looking at that as an option as well. So I started looking more into that kind of act structure.
Yeah, so I was curious. That was that terminology as I've been listening to a lot of the playbacks and then being part of the different meetings. I'm noticing more and more people referencing that. The trailer side does seem really interesting. I bought Damage 2 just to, like Josh had suggested doing like a cinematic remix of one of our band songs. And just the first day with that, like I remember like I had to leave, but I downloaded the plugin and I started messing around with the sounds. And I was like, this sounds so cool. And the possibilities, but I had to leave. But I remember like the whole time I was gone, I just was like, I can't wait to get back and fuck with those drums because those drums sound so cool. And so, yeah, I can see how that trailer piece can get very, very addictive in sound. So when you're with the orchestral, with the band side, we're shooting for like 2 to 3 minutes roughly is where we're going as far as length. Are they looking for longer pieces, or right now in the pitch phase, are you still doing like shorter pieces just to showcase what you can do?
Yeah, I'm currently doing shorter pieces, aiming for around 2.5 minutes. Part of what also appealed to me about sync is that I previously had a bit of trouble trying to piece together full songs, and especially in a genre like metal, which can often have like 5+ minute songs, that felt kind of daunting to me to try and like work towards. And so when I heard, you only have to do like 2.5 minutes most of the time, I thought that was quite exciting. So, yeah, that's what I'm currently aiming to hit. I think trailers are around kind of 2 to 3 minutes most of the time. So, yeah.
Again, I was thinking, and the reason I asked that is, would the goal for you then to be like doing underscore for film, essentially?
That would certainly be pretty cool. At the moment, there's I guess a few kind of target areas that I'd be pretty keen to go into. So at the moment, I just like try and get together some collections of music and see where they start landing, and
right,
which areas they're best suited to. But yeah, one of those film underscore would be a good one to try and go for as well.
Yeah, I just saw it was Jacob Collier, something like that. He was, excuse me, they had a screen, so it looked like they were scoring something, and they had like a huge screen. You could see them like working along. He was like playing piano to the film in the background that was running, and someone was like doing this shaker. I was like, that looks pretty fun. It looks like it would be a pretty cool thing. I think it doesn't necessarily suit me, my skill sets per se, although maybe one day I might feel differently, but it did look hella cool to like track along and do that piece.
Yeah, I think I did see a clip of that, and there's like it's like an animated film or something, and there was the clip I saw, there was like some big stone doors opening up, and so he was like turning like a piece of stone, to
Yes,
simulate
that's
that sound.
the exact one.
Yeah.
Wait, it sounds like we have the same TikTok feed at some point because XJ Will popped up, and then this is it Seds?
Sides.
How do you say her name? Sides.
Yeah.
Sides had popped up on there too. Yeah, we're learning the same things. It was funny because I had joined. There's like a master music licensing or something by Michael Elsner. Are you familiar with him?
Name sounds familiar, but I don't know precisely who he is.
Yeah, and he was. I had taken his course, and that's where I first started just learning about it. And then I knew Josh Williams separately, and then I saw XJ Will, drop in on my feed, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy looks really familiar. But then really learning a lot, and then joining the Sync Alliance. I felt like what the Sync Alliance has offered was it goes much deeper than even Michael Elsner's, though I'm really grateful for what I learned in that other course as well. But yeah, it's been kind of mind-blowing, the possibilities out there. When you started, getting serious about composing, getting serious about sync licensing, what has been one of the more exciting things for you in that process?
I think two things is being in the group and just how I guess forthcoming with information people like Josh and the experienced members are. Someone asks a very specific question and then they'll reply in like detail and they're really good about feedback on music and stuff. And then also seeing the achievements of the other members, like Omega Sparks,
He's killing it.
Yeah, all the TV placements and sports placements he keeps getting, and just seeing people getting those wins, and it's like the people that we're interacting with and learning alongside, and they're getting all those successes, and that's kind of like reminds you can get to that level as well.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, when I see that kind of stuff come down, I think I commented on Omega's one time saying like, when you post these, it reminds me that this is possible. Cause here's this person that I see now weekly, like in meetings, and it's like, he's a real human just like us. And he's doing this shit like for real, like doing this in a huge way. And that's wild. Now what's your primary instrument?
I think at this point, it's probably between violin and guitar, because I don't really play violin very often anymore, but I was been learning it since I started learning when I was 6, and then I stopped taking lessons when I was maybe about 18, 19. So, when I do orchestral stuff, I'm thinking in terms of violin and how everything relates to that. And then guitar when I'm doing like metal stuff.
Doing the heavier things, and then but not the 5-minute solos. Is what you said. You don't want to go for the 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've never been much for shredder. I enjoy a good solo, but yeah, I was just never able to get much feed.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm not a lead guitarist at all. We toured, my band toured as a 3-piece, and so I had to do the leads. But on all of our albums, we had other people playing the leads in the actual recordings, because it would have taken one session guy we brought in, it took him, like 3 takes to get something that may have taken me 2 weeks to figure out, and probably still wouldn't have played it as well. Like I'm just I do the rhythm stuff, and most of the time now in my band, I'm putting my guitar down and just jumping around and singing. I like running all over the place and just singing. And my lead guitarist, we hired a lead guitarist, and he's really good. So we just let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Now, are you mixing, mastering, doing the whole process yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of the whole mixing, mastering was, what I was like mainly interested in for some time. So, thinking about and learning about those things. I'm certainly like fully professional skill level. It saves time. I can do things kind of on the fly while I'm composing, and I suppose that I know how I want it to sound. So there's that kind of that one less stage of communication to try and deal with, to be able to know what I'm actually going for. So that's part of why some people do all the mixing and mastering, because they've tried sending it to other people, and even if they're a really good mixer or mastering engineer, they just have a particular sound and particular way of interpreting things that just doesn't quite gel right with
Yeah, that's one thing. And you've given me a lot of tips along the way with the mixing. I do appreciate that. That is one thing I'm discovering, how much of an art form mixing itself is. And I think I thought of it in a very clinical way. We always hired other people to mix, and I really had no idea. I was telling a friend of mine who is like, does it professionally, and he would send me mixes, and I was laughing with him because I was like, dude, I never knew what the hell to even listen for. I was just like, does it sound good or not? Is my voice clear? Cool, we're good. Like, I had no idea what it was until I finally got in there. And I'm like, man, there's a whole other level of vision where, like, now when I'm writing, like with the band, I'm already starting to see, like, okay, when we mix, I think we want to go here. We want this kind of vibe. We want, and I'm like, man, this is kind of wild. Like, how much by hiring somebody else to do it, you're kind of giving a piece of your vision away, which isn't bad. Like, if you trust him, the guy that we hired, we knew each other really well. So he could kind of get inside my head and figure out, okay, this is where we want to go. But man, it's a very exciting art form though. Yeah. That's for sure. And the mastering, I'm still trying to figure that out as we go. Do you have any tips for mastering?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, for me, the kind of mastering mostly just entails like slapping a limiter on the master bus, and
right.
Yeah, it's because like doing the like proper mastering, or at least like the kind of the sonic side of it can be very subtle, at least, if you're dealing with people that are like really skilled at each stage of the process, because a lot of the kind of like changing the sound is ideally done during mixing, and then the mastering engineer usually only wants to kind of just make things a bit louder and maybe make some very tiny adjustments to optimize the kind of the translation across different playback systems.
Yeah, it does seem like the more I do on that mastering bus, the worse it sounds. Like even yesterday, I tried 2 different things, and I brought my kids in because I just wanted someone who didn't know what they were doing in music, just to give me like raw feedback, like to the sound of a regular listener, what's this like? And I just A/B'd, and sure enough, they picked the one that I just basically put God Particle on and tweaked the EQ a little bit on it and brought the limiter down just a touch, and that was it. That's all that was on the master. And that was the one they were like, no, that's the one that sounds the best. And when I was trying to throw like a compressor and an EQ and do all this other stuff, they were like, it just sounds harsh. You didn't do it. That's not good. Yeah. The simple is better. I think we were the ones you were telling me about, don't even put, like when you start mixing, to not put any effects, like don't go, like basically just kind of balance and blend first before even putting anything on.
Yeah, so there's some exercises that I've seen recommended for when you're learning to mix, is just start with no plugins, no EQ compression, just like a fader balance, and you can like pan stuff left and right. Just do that and see, do as much of it as you can with that. And then that'll kind of show you how much you can do just with like the volume balancing. Then you can do, once you've gotten a bit more used to that, you can do like a single channel strip on each track, and then so you can have some of that EQ and compression, but you've got a very limited set of things to work with. So you have to be very deliberate about not fitting all over the place and boosting all these things and all these like 5 compressors, and then trying to limiting the time you've got to mix a track, and like doing it in like say 2 hours, and just doing trying to achieve as much as you can within that time. Right. So then you can you have to focus on what's most important, because if you're fiddling around with all these things that no one's going to notice, then you're wasting your time, and then the rest of the track will be completely unmixed. And
Right. Well, and I think you had mentioned too, and that's something that I've really been practicing a lot of not mixing solo too often. And man, doing that changed it, because I would obsess over getting the kick just right. I'd obsess with getting, the guitar tone, whatever. And then you put it in context and you're like, wait, it doesn't sound, it's not hitting right. It's not, and then realizing the relationships of the frequencies and everything together. So and it saved me time too, because now I'm not spending an hour just trying to get the kick drum like just perfect or whatever, instead of like figuring out, okay, in the mix, I need it to cut this way. And so that's what I apply. But I was guilty of, like, I think my vocal, I was like throwing all these different compressors and trying to use them in different ways. And I'm noticing more and more, I'm just kind of throwing things out to get better and better and better. What are some other things that you learned along the way that have helped you up your game when it comes to mixing?
Automation is something that can really help kind of add a lot of like movement and life to track. I don't like doing automation. It's kind of an annoying one to have to recommend, but
I'm laughing because yesterday I was doing a remix on something, one of our other songs, and I have a lot of automation on it, and I had to tweak something. I had like one that's like 5 tracks because it's like this choral thing that we're like spreading out, and I was like, son of a bitch, I have to tweak it now. That takes so much work when you've automated. At least from my ignorance, maybe there's an easier way to do it, but like for me, I have to then go back in and move every little thing. Is that the way you still have to do it, or do you know a secret way that you can just do them all together?
I think for me, I mostly just like work on my laptop and that without any other kind of like peripherals. So if I am doing automation, I basically just have to just, okay, I need this part to go up in volume, so just click a little dot and move the kind of automation of line up, and then it goes back down, so click another one, move it down. It will be quite nice someday to like get a control surface like with faders, so I can play the song and then have 8 tracks or 16 tracks at once, and then
so that's what that allows you to do?
Yeah, and like set it to like a right mode, so then when the automation will follow what the faders are, where the faders are, so you can just kind of move it up and down as the song breathes, and then and just kind of like automatically like just writes in all the ups and downs of the faders into the automation lane.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that's so. When I always joke how, if not for digital boards, like even in live sound, if not for digital boards, I wouldn't know how to do sound. Because whenever I look at the huge boards, all the knobs, I'm like, what the fuck's happening right now? But like for some reason, the Logic makes sense to me. Are you in Logic?
I was in Logic. I'm in Studio One now.
Studio
from
One.
Presonus. Okay. So I've been with that one for some years now.
Right on. Yeah, those make sense to me, and like the new digital boards for live sound makes more sense. But there's a thing on Logic that I've done a little bit with, as far as there's this plugin that it's almost like a DJ stutter type thing, and you can click like write instead of automate or something. There's like some little thing where you can go along and raise that one fader and as it's going and cause it to like do the thing. So I never thought about trying to do multiple tracks together like that, though. That might be interesting. Maybe I need to give that a go, because sometimes when have to do multiple tracks, it sounds great. It's a great thing, but it takes a lot to dial that all in. What if someone is wanting to get into it, right? And they're listening to this podcast, they're wanting to get into composing and kind of taking the path that you are on right now, but they're just getting started. What would you suggest to them? Where would be a good place for them to start?
Well, for sync licensing, Sync Alliance is a great one.
my podcast listeners are probably going to start thinking, because I've talked so much about Sync Alliance the last like 2 months, they're going to be like, are you getting paid for this, Miguel? But it's true. I'm not getting paid for it. I'm paying for it, but it is really helpful. Sorry, I cut you off though.
Yeah. Composing, I don't know so much about like the side of getting work and composing, but in terms of making film scores, I mean, there are some good YouTube channels like this Guy Mitchell Moore. He's a British composer. He's done a number of like TV shows and stuff. He's got some really cool videos on composing with orchestras, and he's got a very like engaging style and covers some reasonably basic concepts that should be pretty easily digestible for a beginner. And yeah, I guess just like find some sort of like sample libraries like the Spitfire BBC Symphonic Orchestra Discover Edition is like a free orchestral library, and it sounds pretty good. And like download that, start messing around with it, and see what you come up with. I think a good exercise.
You said that's Spitfire?
Yeah, Spitfire. Yeah, I'm a big fan of of them for orchestral things. I think a good exercise is to take a piece that you like, and this can apply to any genre that you're trying to get familiar with, and to just try and recreate it. And that can give you some of insight into how certain things are like structured, and so you don't have to just try and sort of absorb the vibe and then recreate that vibe, but you can just kind of like go directly from like a reference track.
Yeah, the referencing has been so vital. I love that. I'm so impatient, just want to go. But then I notice when I stopped referencing, it's like I just veered further off the path. And every time I'd bounce it to like check, I'm like, fuck. And so, yeah, that referencing is so powerful. The episode I dropped today, it's Lisa Carbe. I think I'm messing up her name right now. I apologize. Her and her partner, they've been doing sync licensing for like 25 years. And they were talking about how when they first got into it, the like aerobics had just kind of hit the scene, like huge, thing. And they were getting jobs because they wanted pop songs, but they wanted them at specific tempos, like at 120 for this kind of class, at 160 for this kind of class. So they were hiring them to recreate the pop song, but at the new tempo. So she's like, we had to be so meticulous. It had to be like exact, but just faster in that regard, and like enough to like be able to put it out there. And she was like, that took us to school, like having to reference every little thing and dial every little piece. I was like, man, that would be really helpful. That'd be a powerful exercise, and they got paid to do it too. So that's not a bad way to go. Well, man, thanks for making the time. I know that your day is just getting started over there and about to go make some more music. And you're doing school too. Are you going back for music, doing your master's?
I'm doing cybersecurity because my main field of work for the last few years has been in IT.
Okay.
So been out of work for a little bit. So I've, just I'm going back to study so I can. So I don't expect sync to take off all that soon, but yeah.
Right. It does seem like a slow build where it's like over time it starts to build.
Yeah, I certainly won't complain if it does, but
like I will take it.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll probably have to do something else for at least some amount of time, and so I'm just retraining for that. It's been really fascinating.
And that almost opens up a whole other podcast we could do, because I have a lot of questions about like where they're going with quantum computing, I guess, is the thing. Like I've heard people talking about that, where passwords and security like will be such a huge like next challenge of like the power of the computing that's happening. So it sounds like you're going into a pretty solid field for a lot of work, because it sounds like it's going to get harder and harder.
Yeah.
And they're going to need a lot of people working on it. That's for sure. Well, for the last two questions of the podcast before we jump off, right now, in your life, how would you define living a great life?
I think living such that I don't feel like I'm going, I should do this thing out of a sense of missing out on something. Like if I feel I want to do this out of, because it'll be exciting to do this and will add to my life rather than like patching up any holes. And at the same time to also like try and help people to get to that point as well. At least that's as best I can word it at the moment. But it's kind of the general vibe.
That's an awesome perspective in the idea of like, it's like one is fear-based and the other seems more love-based, to just be like, if you're running and chasing because you're going to miss out on this thing, it's an exhausting place to be. That's for sure. Like, I like that. So for the last question, right now, how would you define creating great things?
I guess just being able to communicate your feelings as accurately and powerfully as you can. Because if I'm creating my orchestral music, I often like to do kind of like gentle, uplifting music. When I'm doing that, I kind of think of that kind of warm feeling. And so the more I can make other people feel that with the music, the better.
It's awesome, man. Well, let people know. I know you're not typically out front, like doing stuff. You're keeping it more in the studio and all that. But let people know if they want to reach out, maybe collaboration, or reach out interested in listening to the music for potential down the road. How would they connect with you?
I have an Instagram. I'll try and write it down and then like put it up on camera, so I don't have to spell the whole thing out.
Here, let me get it. I think we got it. See if it pops up on here.
Yeah, that's my Instagram.
I'm seeing if I can get it focused. How do you say it? Is how?
It's a French word. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. It was just kind of...
Okay. Well, I'll have a link to it then. I'll put the link in the notes. So if you guys you just click the link in the notes if you want to connect, and we'll have that in there. How it's acoustic?
Something along those lines, I guess.
Understand something in there. That's awesome. Well, dude, thanks for making the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.